Do you know the difference between a commercial lease and a residential lease? Today, I want to walk you through why commercial leases and residential leases are two completely different animals, not just legally, financially, and strategically. If you're a business owner, an investor, tenant, or someone just looking to get into investing, this matters more than you probably realize. So I'm going to break down how residential rent works, how commercial rent actually works, and why one favors the tenant and the other favors the owner, and how understanding this changes how you negotiate, invest, and plan long term. So let us start with residential rent, because that is what most people know. Residential leases are built around protection and stability. The law assumes the tenant needs safeguarding. Leases are standardized, terms are rigid, and rent increases are often capped or regulated depending on your location. Evictions are slow, expensive, and heavily regulated depending on the county you're in. The property value is tied mostly to the comparable sales, not income like commercial. If you own residential property, your upside is limited by the market. You could renovate, sure. You could raise the rent a little, but at the same time, you're boxed in. The tenant has leverage, and the system is designed that way intentionally. Now let's talk about commercial leases. Commercial leases are a business contract between two parties who are assumed to be rational, informed, and responsible. That's not always the case. That single assumption changes everything. In commercial leases, almost everything is negotiable. Rent, term length, escalations, build-outs, maintenance, renewal options, exit clauses, personal guarantees, almost everything you could imagine is part of a commercial lease. There is no safety net, no emotional framing, no assumption that one side needs protection. It's a pure economics business contract. So here's the first major difference people miss. In residential rent, the tenant pays for the space. In commercial, the tenant pays for the income potential or functionality of the building. Think about a coffee shop. A coffee shop is not paying rent because the square footage is nice. They're paying because the location could generate more revenue for them. The landlord knows this, the bank knows this. Everyone involved is underwriting income, not comfort. So that leads to the second major difference. How is the property valued? Which is one of the biggest differences. Residential property is valued by comps. What did the house next door sell for? Commercial property, on the other hand, is valued by income. The net operating income, cap rates, cash flow, yada, yada, yada. That means something powerful. In commercial real estate, raising the rent does not just increase monthly cash flow, it directly increases the value of the building. You change one line on the rent roll and you could add millions in value depending on the cap rate of your market. That does not exist in residential at the same scale. Now let us talk about lease length, because this is where mindset really shifts. Residential leases are usually 1 year, sometimes 2, that is it. Commercial leases can be 5, 10, 15, or sometimes more, with built-in rent increases throughout that whole entire term most likely. Predictable income, long-term stability. From an owner's perspective, that is gold for them. From a tenant's perspective, it is a commitment, and a commitment changes behavior. Commercial tenants invest in the space. They build it out, they brand it, they depend on it. That makes them stickier. Less turnover, less volatility. Now let's flip to the risk, because people love to say commercial is riskier. Commercial has fewer tenants. If one leaves, it hurts a lot more. But residential, on the other hand, is death by 1,000 cuts. You have turnover, you have maintenance, tenant issues, management headaches, constant friction, toilets. I could go on and on. But commercial risk, on the other hand, is centralized and more controllable, and the reward is more proportional. Another key difference is expenses. In residential, the landlord pays for almost everything you could think of. Taxes, insurance, maintenance, repairs, utilities, and it only goes up. In commercial, many leases are triple net, which means the tenant pays for your taxes, your insurance, the maintenance on the whole entire building, and the landlord just pretty much collects the rent with far fewer expenses, little to none actually. That alone changes the cash flow math dramatically. Now, here is the part that most people never hear. Commercial tenants expect negotiation. Residential tenants fear it. If you walk into a commercial lease without negotiating, you are doing it wrong. Free rent, tenant improvement allowances, rent step-ups instead of a flat rate, Early termination options, all of that is pretty much normal. You can get a free years of rent, $1 million to improve your building, whatever, you name it. With that being said, commercial landlords price that into their negotiation. Residential landlords could care less of what you think the rent should be. So when people say commercial is only for big players, that is not true. It's just for the informed players. If you are a business owner renting out space, understanding commercial rent helps you protect your margins. If you are an investor, understanding commercial rent helps you scale faster with fewer doors and more control. And if you are someone thinking long-term, it changes how you view ownership entirely. Residential rent is about shelter, commercial rent is about leverage. One is stable, the other lets you compound. Neither is good or bad on its own, they just serve different purposes. The mistake is treating them like they are the same. If you remember nothing else, remember this. Residential real estate is emotional, commercial real estate is mathematical. When you learn to operate a mathematical environment, everything changes. So if this video has helped, take a second to like the video or do not. I could really care less. If you want more breakdowns, let us know what you guys want to hear next in the video.